Okay, let me just make a quick end of this. The reason I say it's rape is because God has never conceded anything. In other words, I believe over the last 27 years, this church got so much grace, it was essentially sin, the grace that they received. It's almost impossible for me to do a video and prove everything because we weren't in church over the last 27 years. If we were in church over the last 27 years, you would know that you shouldn't have had this space. And it's going to be proven, okay? Doctrines of demons are a huge aspect. The fact that this church was playing church is a huge aspect. And the fact that you guys aren't repentant and you don't really serve Jesus Christ according to the scriptures, that's the proof. Now, me being raped, that's God not conceding to anything. That's me not being able to get my point across. That's not people reciprocating, and that's God not admitting anything. That's the rape. The rape is that I'm just constantly being wronged, and the truth is virtually on my side at this point. You know, the church over the last 27 years got so much space and grace to repent and sin and screw around and destroy me and destroy other people that it's an abomination. It's an absolute abomination. I'm not focusing so much on what happened to me. I'm focusing on a lot more on the fact there was no church to minister to. I had no job to do. Of course, I had no job to do. What was I supposed to do? I mean, I did the videos I felt led to do, but you can't hold people accountable and require of people if they don't ever acknowledge you. It's a perfect trick. It's a perfect trick this church did. They ignored me like I didn't exist until it came time for judgment. Then they didn't ignore me anymore. But while I was preaching the truth in the gospel, they ignored me perfectly, and hypocrite God allowed it, and that's rape. The rape is in God not conceding anything. The rape is in God not admitting anything. The rape is God not being accountable to his word toward me and my ministry over the last 27 years. Essentially, this church has done nothing right while I got completely demoed and taken out. And that's the biggest factor. The fact that this church for 27 years was playing church and basically failing. Well, how come their failures is suddenly a success because I fell? I mean, isn't that rape? They were doing nothing right. They were the ones not showing up to work. So all of a sudden they're in good standing with you? How? Because I fell? Because I got humiliated? Now all of a sudden they're in good standing? That's hypocrisy on a level that I can't even measure. They still never showed up to class. You can't put an A+ on their paper when they weren't even in class. And that's essentially what you're doing now. That's rape. Especially when I'm the one who showed up and I was getting A's. And my ministry and my messages were A's. But like I said, if they ignore you and they act like you don't exist, you can't require anything and no work can really get done. That's the game. That's the game you allowed them to play. Okay? And they're being rewarded for it now. That's hypocrisy, leaven, and rape. The rape is in you not conceding anything. The rape is in you not admitting anything. The rape is in you justifying the evil and the joke of a church you've had over the last 27 years and condemning the one who actually tried and was forced to obey you because I was born to serve the Lord, forced to obey you on a certain level. Okay? So my problem right now isn't just that I got taken out. It's the church not being exposed according to the truth and me being raped because even though I'm exposing them, there's no reciprocation. This church needs to admit that they're exposed. And they got exposed over the last 27 years. They need to admit it a certain way. And they need to admit that if anybody deserves to be laughed at right now, it's them alongside of me and maybe even them first. Because I'm the one who showed up. I'm the one who showed up to work. Yeah, I got humiliated eventually, but I showed up to work. If you never show up to work and you justify, you're that guy. You're that person. And it's just the truth. So perspective is needed. My biggest problem is that God's setting a lot of people up for a lot of good things when they never even showed up to work. That's hypocrisy, that's rape, that's leaven, and that's something that should not be allowed because it's almost like I'm being totally focused on rather than the point that the church never even showed up and I literally didn't have a job to do. And how is that my fault? That's the perspective that needs to be considered and seen differently, and we need to stay there for at least a year to 3 years. The fact that your church never showed. To me, that's a worse offense than me falling. Because your church not showing means a school was built. There was a school built, there was classrooms, there was books, there was pencils, and nobody showed but me. for 27 years. That's kind of a big deal. And the fact it's completely ignored and is brushed under the carpet is one of the greatest offenses that has ever happened to any soul who's ever been created.